a moment and think back. When was the last time you felt excited about your life? Was it a week ago? A month? Longer? How long has it been since you enjoyed time with family and friends without the pressure of work? Chances are you felt more satisfied when you had time to work out and were free in the weekends to just rest and play. Chances are you felt more connected to special people in your life when you had a casual dinner together, rode bikes, or had a cup of coffee with a close friend. Chances are you felt more focused and relaxed when you let your mind wander. You wrote in your journal. You dreamed and prayed. You felt inspired, and you experienced peace. Whether you're in need of a tune-up or in search of a more balanced life, Coachwell can teach you the skills you need to achieve personal and professional success by incorporating 3 simple strategies. First, learn how to blend your personal and professional life by keeping one calendar for all your activities, be it work or play. Second, understand a balanced life is dynamic, not static. It's like riding down a single-track trail on your mountain bike. You have to be alert to change direction and your speed so you don't crash. Each week, you will have to tweak your schedule a bit to ensure both your personal and professional life blend well. Finally, a balanced life requires continuous effort. Plan your week before it begins. Put in all the personal activities and professional projects that are critical to a successful week. Then grab your gear, pack your gym bag, prepare the food you need, set it by the door, or in your car to boost your success the next day. Now is the time to take control of your future, build a balanced life, achieve greater personal fulfillment, and watch your professional life soar.
All right, everybody. Hey, well, welcome to another Facebook Live. We are excited for you to be joining us. Hopefully, you guys can hear us loud and clear out there. So thanks for watching. Hey, if you get a second, go ahead and just let us know where you're watching in from, where you're tuning in, and love to connect with you.
There's an ancient proverb that reveals the secret of.
Let me end that. There we go. Let me go ahead and tell us where you're watching from, where you're tuning in. Love to connect with you. And we got a great day for you. Great little talk here with a good friend of mine, Rod Tillery. He's going to be talking about how to develop and effectively develop your staff. And so thank you so much for tuning in. And if you guys got questions for Rod about staff development, about his great hairdo, you can go ahead and just type in the comments there, and we'll go ahead and get to those as soon as we can. But feel free to tell us where you're at and let us know where you're watching from. That way we can connect with you and hopefully get to know you a little bit more. So please let us know. So hope you guys are having a great day. All right, let's go ahead and get started. So I will go ahead and introduce today's guest. Rod and I have been friends for a long time, probably about 13 years or so. And we started out as friends when I was on staff at a church in San Diego. And he was in the middle of transitioning out of being a junior high pastor and into youth director for a pretty large denomination, and doing a great job for them. And so we got to know each other a little bit. He was kind of like my tech guy. So he was like all into computers and, helping me switch from a PC over to a Mac. He was kind of like the big pioneer way back then in those days. And so, he was also one of the big influencers that helped me to join the John Maxwell team, get certified with them, and become a coach. Just a great friend. He's now working with a group called Coachwell, and they do coaching around the nation for large companies and churches. Some of the list here is Focus on the Family, Cutco, Young Living, and lots of churches around the nation. So, Rod, why don't you go ahead and just introduce yourself a little bit, because you probably do a little bit better job than I did. So thanks, Rod, for joining, and just tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah, I don't know if I can beat that. Well, first of all, Ryan, thanks for having me on. It's funny, as I was thinking through preparing for this, I've never been one to have a lot of friends, and so for our friendship to last this many years, man, I really appreciate your friendship. You're just a guy that's, man, I look at you and I go, man, that guy is so smart. And, you're someone that has always looked to grow, always looked to improve yourself, always looked to do what you do better. And I've really appreciated that, even when I've seen you, struggle with this or that, something minor. You're always looking for, how do I get better? How do I get better? And so I've always appreciated that about you. And yeah, it's an honor to be on here. I pastored for 15 years and in a couple different denominations, and I'm now working as an executive coach. I coach pastors and leaders in the corporate world all over the country, and I help them with their hiring, and am really behind what I'm doing. I had when I left pastoring, there were a couple of people that asked me, what are you going to do now that you're leaving ministry? And I said, I'm never leaving ministry. I'll do ministry my entire life. It just is going to come from a different framework at this time. So, I really get to minister to people all over the place in all kinds of different situations, and I absolutely love it. But my goal is that I want to help people move forward. I want to help them become a better version of themselves. And whether they believe in God or not, when I'm helping them become who they were created to be, they become closer to God no matter what, whether they even see it or not. When they're becoming a better version of themselves, they're becoming closer to who God created them to be. Therefore, they're becoming closer to the Creator. They're becoming closer to asking the questions, why am I here? And so that is a kind of a 100,000 foot view of what I do, and love it. If I could summarize it, I help people solve people problems, and I love what I do. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, that's so good. So Rod, we're talking today about how to effectively develop your staff, specifically on using coaching as kind of the framework, right? There's lots of ways to develop your staff, team building, workshops, conferences. But today we're kind of specifically honing in on the topic of coaching. So, Rod, why do you feel like it's so important for someone to have this intentional plan for developing their staff and also even for themselves?
Yeah, that's a great question. When we're not intentional about doing something, we just leave it up to chance. We just hope that it's going to happen, and it rarely ever does. When we are intentional, sometimes what I find is that in the church world, when we say we're going to be intentional about it, it can almost feel like that's not very spiritual. Like I'm just going to leave it up to God, to do all of this. And I don't subscribe to that at all. God is a part of this equation, and we are a part of this equation. And so for me, I want to invest in myself so that I become the best version of myself. And I want to invest in my staff because I want my staff to be the best version of themselves. And when we do that, we honor God in the whole process. If we're not intentional about it, then we typically don't grow. And when we don't grow, we can spiritualize that all we want. It doesn't honor God. So I believe it's extremely important to being wise stewards of what God has given us, and in ourselves and in our staff.
Yeah. So Rod, tell me what, obviously I think that there's, I've worked in a few different churches. You work in different churches. You're coaching churches around the nation and businesses, organizations. I don't know if there's any really I don't know if there's really any supervisor that's like, yeah, I don't really want to develop my staff, right? But I think majority of them just don't know how, right? And in my experience, it typically means that guys start going to the measurables, right? Like, okay, well, how much did you bring in, or how much did your youth ministry grow, or how many baptisms? We kind of just look at those things, right? And so, I think when we start talking about coaching, it kind of moves. Yes, we talk about those, but I think there's more to it, right? There's more to just those ROI, those measurable in terms of growth of baptisms or growth of attendance, growth. Those are typically where we go, and it kind of just stops there. So maybe you could give us some tips, some tricks, some things that maybe you use or have suggested for people to use when we're talking specifically about coaching.
Yeah. So the measurables, I believe in those. I think they're great. We have to know, where we stand. That helps us set goals for where we want to go. So I think those things are important. But we do have to look at our staff as they're people. One of the things that I see in churches a lot of times is, when you go to seminary, you learn a lot of great things. You don't learn how to lead an organization. You don't, learn how to develop your staff. You don't learn about budgets and leading, board meetings and things like that. So a lot of times pastors, they step into something that a lot of times they're just not prepared for. They're prepared for Sunday morning and, in seminary, but there's so much more to running an organization, a church like that. So when you're taking your staff and you're developing them, you want to make sure that you understand who they are. Use assessments. You and I, we use assessments all the time in what we do. Do some assessments on your staff so that you understand who God created them to be and how they function, and what motivates them, what gets their juices flowing, what demotivates them, what are areas that maybe are on their plate that need to be on someone else's plate, and what are the things that they really bring to the best of their abilities to the team. Understand who they are and help them to thrive in who God created them to be. You also want to, I believe, in developing your staff, a lot of times it takes a shift in how we see our staff structure. So if you're the lead pastor, and I'm sure many of you have already heard of this concept, but in the pyramid, if you're the senior pastor or the lead pastor, you're at the top of the pyramid, and that means everything goes up to you. So what I like to do is, hey, let's flip that pyramid upside down. You're the lead pastor. That means you're at the bottom. You are the ultimate servant, and so your job is to make your staff the best that they can be. You resource them, develop them, invest in them, help them live a balanced life. And if you make your staff the best version of themselves, I guarantee you they will make you look like a better leader than you feel that you are. I believe is absolutely essential. When you invest in them, when you empower them, when you trust them, and all of those things come with different levels of how much can they be empowered at this time, based on how much experience they have and all of that. Those things develop over time. But if you expect that your staff is there to serve you, that they are there to make you look great, and you approach it that way, it's going to be a big disappointment to you. And you're probably going to burn them out in the process. But if you can shift that and you really embrace making them their best, they will make you your best as well. I hope that speaks to that, Ryan.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you and I both use assessments. I know for me, a couple of them that I like to use personally is the DISC assessment, and you and I are both tried to give that. And not only the ones that we use, it's not just the DISC, which is typically what people are familiar with, which is kind of the outside, the behaviors, kind of those things that we see. But our assessment goes deeper into those motivators, which is exactly what you were talking about. What are those things that motivate this person? Yes, they might be driven. Yes, they might be a people person, but what motivates them to connect with people? How do they motivate, or how do they want to connect with people? And so I think those are so important. Right now, obviously the Enneagram is huge. Everyone's talking about it, right? And so
Right.
I think just getting to know them, and so you're not just developing those hard skills, but we're also developing those soft skills. Because I was reading a few months ago, and I can't remember. I think it was Inc. magazine, something like that. Published this thing saying that the reasons why people want to stay at work, and one of the top things was that they are being developed, not just in their ability to produce, but as a person. That if I work here for 5 years, I'm going to be a better person, right? Like my marriage is getting better. I'm a better person. That those people are going to tend to stay with you a lot longer because they feel like I'm becoming a better person. And so, I totally agree, Rod. I think that those assessments are so big because oftentimes we just don't really know how to do it. And so a lot of times those assessments really give us those tools. One thing that's unique about the assessment that we use as well, and a lot of these do it, even the Enneagram, like your Enneagram coach is beginning to come out with some of these, but those comparison reports, Rod, why don't you talk about just a little bit of those comparison reports that we run with clients in our coaching, this running them with their supervisor and the client. Why don't you talk about a little bit of those?
Yeah. So the main assessment that I work with is called the Core Values Index, or the CVI. And one of the great things that I see is that I can understand a lot about a person without ever spending years trying to learn these things. And I can give them an assessment and I can understand. Boy, this is why they're not good with details, and they hate getting these reports in, or boy, it takes a little extra motivation, or man, they seem to be such a perfectionist, or gosh, they want to spend more time with people than I ever could. It really helps you to understand them, but it also helps to understand, how do we work best together? One of the great examples from my work that I use, I had two brothers that were working together, and this was not in a church setting, but in a business setting. So they were business partners. One of them was highly detail oriented, and he was a problem solver. His brother was just big vision and execution. Just dream it, do it. And so that had become kind of a deadly combination. So the dreamer executor, he told me, he said, I look at my brother, and I can't stand him, because I have all these big ideas, and I bring them to him, and he just shoots holes in them and just tells me all the ways it's not going to work. And then you talk to the brother, and he said, this company would go under if he just ran with all of his ideas, because he doesn't think them through. He just goes and does it. And, and it's not, we would just crash. So I went in and worked with them. And what we learned to do is, hey, if you have a big idea and you're going to have 10 new ones every day, if you have a big one and it keeps coming up, over a few weeks, then I want you to lay that thing out. I want you to pass it over the fence to your brother. Allow your brother to look at it, patch some holes in it, and just give it some stability. And then that brother has to pass it back over the fence and say, it's good enough, even though he's a perfectionist. It's good enough. Go with it. And we'll just fix it and tweak it as we go. That was a stretch for both of them. But what that did is after 10 years in their company of very, very little growth, they doubled in size in the next year and a half. Simply by learning to work together and not get in each other's way. So it resolved a lot of conflict, but by understanding yourself and understanding your team and understanding the people around you, it gives you grace for them and for yourself, but two, it really helps you to work together. And we don't have to be good at everything. But I can go, wow, I'm not good at this. And so I'm going to go to Dave and say, Dave, can you help me with this? You're so good at this. Not only does that get the job done, but it really honors who God made Dave to be. Kate, can you help me with this thing over here? You're so good with details and Kate, it honors who she is and it helps get the job done. And so when we can compare who we are and understand that we're not all islands, we need each other, and that's the way that God designed it. We really come together as a team to be our best. Sorry, I think you might be muted. I'm not hearing you right now. No.
Are we there now?
Got it.
Got it. Cool. Sorry about that. So tell me, what about the guy that, he's looking around and saying, man, everybody else on my team needs coaching, but I don't really need coaching. I'm good. I got this. What do you think? What would you say to that guy?
That is a great question. I like to explore first. My initial reaction to that is I probably don't want to work with you because you're already Jesus and you don't need any help. That's my initial gut reaction. I have to check myself and go, step back and go, there could be a few reasons why someone would say that. Sometimes they might say that because they may not have the finances in order to be able to invest in coaching, and that's fine. Hey, let's sit down. I've worked with quite a few people that were just not in a position to make an investment right then, and say, let me help you build a plan so that 6 months from now, a year from now, you're ready. And that can work great. So sometimes those objections are more, there's something I don't want to tell you that's going on. If it's pride, then that can be a different issue. If you feel like, hey, you've got it all together and there's no help that anyone could possibly bring you, you have you are the master at developing your staff, and you need no accountability. You have everything you need in place, and you're obviously, the greatest thing that's happened to church. Then yeah, one, either you don't need coaching, or two, you may be prideful and I probably don't want to work with you. We all need coaches, and what I find with coaching, because coaching is essentially, we want to help you move forward. We want to help you grow and get better, from where you're at to where you want to go. We're here as your trusted advisor to come alongside you and help you be your best. And I think it's important that you invest in yourself. So if you think that everyone else needs a coach but you don't, there might be some problems that you really need a coach for. So yeah.
Yeah, it's good. So what about somebody that, they're in an environment where maybe they're not getting the coaching, or they're not able to be coached, but they really want to be coached? What are some tips? And I know both of you, you and I have worked in environments where, we were in environments where there wasn't a lot of people that were able to coach us right there in-house. I mean, our pastors loved us, cherished us, but it was probably best for us to get coaching outside. I know for me, there was some times where, multiple times where I went to my pastor and I just said, hey, I'm looking for some coaching, looking to grow. And, I'm looking for two things from you, if possible. One would be some time off, either, a couple hours here and there to get online coaching, phone calls, things like that. But there was also coaching where I had to go for a couple of days to meet with my coach in person for a couple of days. Or like in the John Maxwell group, we went to 3 days of coaching and training development. And so I asked my pastor, hey, can I have a couple of days off to get that? But then also I asked, hey, I know that the church doesn't have in their budget the ability to pay for this. Would you allow me to fundraise for this? Can I go to some people that I know to fundraise? And so I know finances is always, the big one. Are there other pushbacks that you kind of have run up against, or other ways to maybe navigate some of that when you're in an environment where maybe the in-house people maybe aren't the best equipped, or I think outside coaching is always great. So the tips or tricks you would suggest there?
Yeah, that's a great question as well, Ryan. We want to be, your staff wants to be invested in. So, if you're looking for coaching, one, I think there are a lot of great coaches out there that have not built a great business, and are willing to help you, find a coach. There are a lot out there, and there are a lot out there that need clients just as much as you need to be coached. And so, you can find something. Hey, get creative. Hey, coach, if I put a group of 10 guys together that could invest, this little amount of money each, what can you do? Don't just assume that there's this one size fits all. I've got to pay an enormous amount of money to get this that I could never afford. Get creative. Join a mastermind group. Find a way to make it happen. If you need to, go commit that, hey, I'm gonna drive for Lyft or Uber or whatever, and all of that money is going towards paying for coaching, so that I can be better down the road. If I invest in myself now, it's going to be better down the road. Sometimes I know it's hard to do or even think about that when you're going, man, I haven't even been on a date with my wife in 4 months because we just can't afford, to pay a babysitter and do this. I know it's hard to think about those things. So, you have to sit down and prioritize what is the most important investment that I can make for my future, and then decide that I'm going to make this happen no matter what. I have seen people sacrifice great amounts to get coaching, and for me personally, I want to make it worth their while. And so I'm going to do everything I can as a coach to come alongside them and help them be their best, help them really, really feel that when our coaching relationship comes to an end, that every penny was worth it and more. So, so I would say, get creative, and find what you need. I would say, you might want to call Ryan Latham. He is a phenomenal coach and a great ministry partner, and he is the man. So get in touch with
I
him.
appreciate that. I appreciate that. So we posted today an article from Kerry Newhall, who most of you on this probably know, but he posted an article. It's actually one of his assistants who wrote the blog article. It's talking about 3 ways to help develop your staff, or what this younger generation is looking for. And we'll put the link to that article in the comments here. But just real quick, the 3 points there was, again, this was a younger staff member who's working with Kerry Newhall and wrote this article, 3 things that the younger people are looking for in their superior to or the supervisor to help them with. And he wrote this. He said, he wants the supervisor to say, how can I help you win? Right? Like, how can I come alongside you? I know Andy Stanley likes to meet with each of his staff members and say, what is one thing? I can't do everything for you, but what is one thing I can do this year or this quarter to help you win, to move you forward? What is the one thing I can do, right? Number 2 is, I trust you. Man, I know, Rod, trust is huge, right? And my pastor always says, trust is built by the spoonful and lost by the bucketfuls. And so, trust and building that trust. How can I trust you? And the third thing is, I want you to do what you were made for or made to do. And then you put in brackets there, eventually, right? Because oftentimes we're not, especially as young leaders, not in the ideal situation, but they're growing and becoming that. And so again, using those assessments, saying, hey, this is where we want you on the bus, but you're probably better suited on a different seat in the bus. And so I think just some of that, and again, we'll put the link there in the comments for you guys to take a look at that article. But Rod, last question here, man. What is something that brings renewal to you as a father, as a minister, as a coach? What's something that brings renewal to you?
Yeah. For me, I love the outdoors, and I love learning. So spending time with my family, to go camping, we live in Central Oregon, and it is the great outdoors. So we can step out the back door and go on a little walk or a mountain bike ride. I'm recovering from a broken collarbone from mountain biking right now, so I'm out of the game for the summer. But I get renewed when I can get outdoors and spend time with my family, when I can go on a date with my wife. And I'll tell you that my idea of date night early on, that meant Friday night, we're going out. We have 4 kids, and so I don't remember the last time we went out on a Friday night. We went on a breakfast date this morning. Last week we went to lunch together, and we find that time, and that's my time with my family. Alone, I love mountain biking. I love to get outdoors, and I work with people a lot, but I am a bit of an introvert, so I like to be alone. Mountain biking, I can even go with my friends, but I don't have to talk to them. So it's kind of a refresher for all of us. And the outdoors, I really connect with God in that. It refreshes me. Along those lines, Ryan, I think it's important for renewal, refreshment, to understand who we are. Some people are, they get some refreshment by being with 50 people, hanging out and having dinner, that doesn't refresh me. That drains my energy. Being alone really helps me, just sometimes just to learn something new that I don't know. I'm an audiobook speed reader, and so just to grab a good audiobook that I'm going to learn something new, that refreshes me, and that doesn't refresh everyone. So knowing who you are, I think, is really essential to all of that. So,
A good time by the water is good for me, man. So I really like to hang out by the water and just spend some time. Well, Rod, hey, thanks for joining. Thanks for spending some time with us. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, hit the bell. Make sure you guys continue to join in and keep watching, man. We are so thankful for all of our guests that come and join us. You can check out Rod at coachwell.com and get more about him, what their services are. We'd love to partner with you guys. So thank you so much for watching. Tune in. Make sure to leave a comment where you're watching from, and we will leave comments for you on some of those posts that we talked about.